What's up guys, it's your boy Damien again. I'm happy to see you. I'm getting really excited because this is the last theoretical video before we jump into the code editor and create our first website from scratch. But before we do that, I have to tell you a couple words about CSS. What is CSS, what does it do, and how to use it. If you haven't seen my previous videos, I encourage you to check them out because right now we are at the end of our theoretical trip as we are going to make our first website soon. As you may know already, front end of our website contains two different technologies, HTML and CSS. HTML is responsible for the structure of our website. It's a markup language, so we use markups, also known as tags, to create our website structure. And here you can see we have a div tag, and inside of it we have a p tag. CSS is responsible for the layout and appearance of our website. On this example, you can see we gave a CSS rule to our div element. This rule says that our div is supposed to have a border which is 2 pixels thick solid line in red color. So HTML and CSS are two different languages that can be fused to give us some awesome websites.
Fusion. Ha!
Here you can see a difference that CSS can make. This is the Yahoo website with and without CSS styles in it. The difference is tremendous and it only depends on the styles we give to our website. Nothing more. So what is this CSS? The name stands for Cascading Style Sheet. So it's the sheet with styles for our website. Cascading means that it contains hierarchy of validity and indicates which CSS rule to use to specific element. To put it short, cascading is responsible for choosing the most important CSS rule to use to our element. For example, it says that our own styles are more important than default browser styles, so the browser styles get overwritten by our styles. In this slide, we can see how this all works in practice. We have two p tags in our HTML, and we can see the result displayed by the browser below. Since the p tags are both blocked, they're gonna place themselves one below other by default. But if we would use CSS to change the layout of our p tags, the result would be completely different. In this case, we say we want every p element on our website to have font size set to 30 pixels, yellow color of the font, float left property so they can place themselves next to each other, and width set to 50%. As I just said, this selector, which is only the p letter, indicates all the p tags in our HTML file. Okay, but what do we have to know to use CSS correctly? If you want to be a front-end developer and earn really good money, there's no way you can do it without knowing CSS, so keep that in mind. And the first thing you need to learn in CSS is how to create selectors and indicate elements in the HTML structure. If we have our HTML structure, we can refer to our HTML elements in CSS. And to do that, we need selectors. So selector is a representation of our HTML element in CSS. In our case, this selector refers to every p element located in every div element with class named first. If our selector would be only the p letter, then we would refer to every p element in our HTML document. So at the beginning of our CSS rule, we always place the selector, which is the indicator of the HTML element we are about to change. Let's have a quick example. How do you think, according to our CSS rule, which elements in our HTML file would have changed? It refers to every p element which is in a div with the class first. It would be those two p elements, the ones in a div with the first class. The next two things we need to place in our CSS rule after the selector are properties and values. Many of CSS properties and values will come to you in a learning process. There are many of them, but you'll be using them on a daily basis, so there's no need to learn them by heart. There's no need to memorize them all, and remember that Google is programmer's best friend and you can easily find a CSS property or value that you're looking for online.
Google it!
We put properties and values in the curly brackets, and we can put many properties with values specified to one selector. In our example, we used one property with its value. Our property is font size and its value is 20 pixels. So the property indicates what do we want to change. And the value specifies the effect of our changes. In other case, for example, we could use color for a property and the word red for its value. So the whole thing, our selector with the properties and values in the curly brackets, is the CSS rule. And that is basically our CSS style. You have to know that efficiency and speed in using CSS come with practice. Give it a time. Learn it slowly in your own rhythm and you'll notice that you know more and more properties and values each day. And remember that Uncle Google is your best friend. You probably already know this, but I want to mention that the browser has its own styles, but they are minimal. If the website does not have its own styles, default styles will be displayed for specific items. Our custom styles override the default styles given by the browser, and that is happening thanks to cascading. I showed you before how the website with CSS looked like. Now I want to show you that on a live example. To do that, you need to download the web developer extension to your browser. It's available in Google Chrome, Firefox, and probably other modern warfare.
Bravo 6. Going dark.
Modern browsers. If you have it installed, you should see this gear icon in the corner of your screen. Then you have to click it, go to CSS overlap, and click disable all styles. Just like this. Now you can see how this website looked without the CSS. We have some links right here, unformatted image. Let's scroll down a little bit. Small amount of text, more pictures in their default sizes, our headings, which are links as well. And you can see this website doesn't look so good, right? So let's put our CSS styles back by clicking on the gear, CSS overlap, disable all styles. Let's go back. And this is the huge difference CSS can make. You can see how this website look with the styles on. Now you can see for yourself that website without CSS is just a text with unformatted images and links. You can try this trick on your favorite websites and check the effect. Switch the styles on and off and see the difference. Now I want to show you something else. Here we have our website copied from the code pen and stored on our hard drive. And if we open our DevTools and go to Sources Overlap, we can see all our files used to create this website. And we can see what's in them too. Let's click to our index.html and we have all our HTML code right here. The same thing we can do with our CSS file. So we open it and then we have all our CSS code. And we can copy this code from the HTML or CSS to our code editor and play with it by making some changes. You can also do this on other websites as well. So if you find some interesting website online, open your DevTools, go to the sources overlap and see what files it's using. And you can try to snip its code. And you can copy its code to your code editor. So if we want our website to look unique, we have to create its structure in HTML and then define its layout and appearance in our custom CSS styles. Here you can see an example of HTML and CSS code. What you need to remember is that these two technologies are supposed to be in a symbiosis for the best effect. But how we can add CSS styles to our HTML code? There are 3 ways to do so. The best and recommended way is to import a separate file with your CSS styles to your HTML code. The second way is to place a section with the CSS code in your HTML file. The last way is to put your style directly in a specific HTML element. Let's see it in our examples. How to import your CSS code from a separate file. All you need to do is to place a link tag in your head element in HTML. Our link tag is supposed to have 2 attributes. The rel attribute with the style sheet value and the href attribute, which value should be a path to our file with CSS code. If our HTML file and a CSS file are in the same catalog, all you need to do is to place the name of our CSS file with its extension. We can also add our styles inside our HTML file. In this case, in the head element of our HTML file, we have to open and close the style tags and place our CSS code between them. But we have to remember that this way of adding styles apply only to this one HTML document we are in. A separate CSS file can be imported to many HTML files, which can be different overlaps in our website. The last way of adding CSS to our HTML document is to place our styles directly in a specific HTML element. What we need to do in this case is to choose the element we want to change, create the style attribute in this element, and place our CSS in the value of the style attribute. But you have to remember that this way of adding styles applies only to this specific element where the style attribute is used. Now I want to show you how this all works in practice. We are in our code editor right now. Let's create our new HTML file. Let's make our basic structure of it with an exclamation mark and enter. Let's save it with Ctrl S. Let's change the title on our first styles. Let's save it. Let's create a new CSS file for it. Let's call it style CSS. Let's leave it empty for a moment. Let's import our style CSS file to our HTML structure. In our head element, after our title, let's type link, and we can see a shortcut for it. Let's press enter, and now we have ready link tag with the rel attribute with style sheet value, which is what we need, and href attribute ready to place the path to our CSS file. Since our CSS file is in the same catalog as our HTML file, all we need to do is to type the name of our CSS file. So it's gonna be style CSS, just like this. Let's save it. Let's add something to our body. Let's add a p tag with some text. And save it. Let's open it in our live server. Like this. We can see our font size is very small. So let's make it bigger by adding some styles to our CSS file. First we put a selector, which is gonna be P. So it refers to every P in our HTML element. We know we got one P right now, but if it would be many P tags, this selector right here refers to all of them. Then we open and close curly brackets. We can press enter. And here we can type our property we want to change. In our case, it's gonna be font size. We can see it here. Let's make it 100 pixels. Let's save it. And we can see the effect on our screen. You can see I used semicolon at the end of our value. It's not necessary when you have one property and value in our CSS rule, as you can see. But if we add another, like color red, and save it, we can see everything works, but it won't work when we delete the semicolons. And that's why we should always place semicolons at the end of our values. Let's try this one. Everything works fine. There's no need to place semicolon on the last value like this. But it's a good habit to put semicolon after every value, just in case. Now everything works fine. Let's delete this color, we don't need it. And let's make other changes. Now let's add some styles in our HTML file. Let's go to our index.html file. go to our head tag and place a style tag after our link tag. Like this. And between those tags, we can type our CSS code as well. Let's try it. Use the same selector, P. Open and close the curly brackets. Press enter. And let's change our font size as well. Maybe to 50 pixels. And you can see the changes on your screen. You have to remember that CSS placed in the HTML file is always more important than CSS from a separate file. It's because of the cascading we were talking about. But now I'm going to show you the last way of styling your elements. So we are going straight to P element in our HTML file. Put an attribute style in it. And let's place font size right here. And let's make it 150 pixels. Let's see the effect. And voila. Because of cascading, styles placed directly in the HTML element are the most important. As you can see, when we put CSS directly in our HTML file by the style attribute, we don't use curly brackets anymore. We just put our property and a value in the double quotation marks. But you have to know this is the worst solution to place your styles in, and you should only use it when it's necessary, but the best is not to use it at all. But you have to know that these styles refer only to this specific element. So if I create another P element in our website, and save it, you can see it has its CSS styles from our style tags in the head element in our HTML. And you can see it even better when I change something right here. See? It may seem to be difficult, but trust me, it's easier to show it on a real-time project than explain it in a theory. That's why I'm so happy that we are finally going to make our first real project. And I assure you that after a couple months of learning, you will be able to create even better stuff laying in your bed with only one eye open. I think we have enough for now. We came a long way in our trip and I can't wait to start building our first website in the next video. But for now, thanks for watching. This is Cool Mentors IT. My name is Damien. If you like this video, click like, hit that notification bell, subscribe our channel. If you have some questions, I'll be down in the comments to help you out, and I can't wait to see you next time.